Have you ever actually stopped to think about all those obsolete servers, laptops, and hard drives just sitting around in your company's storage closets? Well, what if I told you that those dusty boxes are holding a higher concentration of gold, silver, and palladium than actual raw ore extracted straight from the earth? It sounds wild, but it's true. The obsolete enterprise hardware we usually just view as a massive headache is actually an incredibly dense matrix of precious metals. Welcome to This Explainer. Today we are breaking down the blueprint for closed-loop ITAD. We're going to discover exactly how modern organizations are taking what used to be a major ecological liability and transforming it into a huge strategic asset through the sheer power of urban mining.
Okay, let's dive right into this. Here is our roadmap for today. 1. The systemic ITAD imperative. 2. The economics of urban mining. 3. Step-by-step material recovery. And 4. Corporate compliance and CSR.
Section 1. The systemic ITAD imperative.
So our modern, global, digital infrastructure is expanding at an absolutely exponential rate, right? And that's creating a monumental ecological challenge. What in the world do we do with these actual mountains of end-of-life electronics? Well, the answer lies in IT Asset Disposition, or ITAD. Now, you might be thinking of the old way of doing things, but ITAD is absolutely no longer just some localized data sanitization protocol. You don't just wipe a hard drive and toss it in a recycling bin anymore. Instead, it's evolved into this absolutely critical nexus point. It sits right at the intersection of global supply chain sustainability, strict resource security, and increasingly tight regulatory compliance.
It's really a tale of two systems. The outdated linear operational model treats obsolete hardware as just a static liability. It's basically just e-waste that costs you money to manage. But the circular ITAD framework, that's a real game changer. It reclassifies that exact same stream of electronics as a highly concentrated dynamic resource matrix. And honestly, failing to securely manage this transition creates massive systemic exposure for companies. Everything from acute data breaches to severe legal non-compliance penalties. Shifting to a circular framework is how forward-thinking organizations are protecting themselves.
Section 2. The economics of urban mining.
Which brings us to a really fascinating question. Where exactly are tomorrow's precious metals coming from? I want you to genuinely think about your supply chains for a second. Are the next big reserves of vital tech materials hidden deep under a mountain somewhere? Or are they literally sitting in office buildings right down the street?
This brilliantly illustrates the shift. With traditional subterranean deposits, the geological concentration of rare earth elements in those open-pit mines is steadily declining. Plus, extracting them is becoming incredibly energy-intensive. But look at discarded printed circuit boards. The concentration of gold, silver, palladium, and copper in these everyday boards is significantly higher per metric ton than in raw ore. We are practically sitting on top of the motherlode without ever having to dig a single hole in the earth.
And beyond the gold and copper, there's a massive strategic necessity we have to talk about: the advanced lithium recovery imperative. Modern portable electronics and enterprise tools rely exclusively on complex lithium-ion configurations. By extracting high-purity lithium, cobalt, and nickel directly from our e-waste, we completely circumvent the incredibly disruptive socio-environmental footprints of primary mining operations. And why does this matter to you? Well, scaling these decentralized recovery networks actually insulates your local supply chains from international market volatilities and tricky geopolitical mineral dependencies. We are quite literally transforming urban environments into self-sustaining resource reserves.
Now, if you have any doubts about the sheer commercial vitality of all this, just consider this number, $8 to $25 plus. That is the astronomical cost per click that advertisers in international markets are willing to pay right now just to rank for corporate search terms like IT asset disposition. This kind of fierce global competition proves that urban mining isn't just some feel-good environmental initiative, it's a highly lucrative, cutthroat global industry.
Section 3. Step-by-step material recovery.
Okay, so how do we actually pull this off safely in the real world? Well, it requires a very strict multi-stage engineering protocol, a 4-step execution plan specifically designed to optimize material purity while enforcing rigorous environmental safeguards. Let's walk through it.
Step 1 is secure inbound logistics. This is where chain of custody logging is absolutely critical. Every single piece of hardware is cataloged using serial tracking and then safely isolated. This absolute data security guarantees that from the exact second your hardware is collected, there is zero risk of physical degradation or, worse, unauthorized component harvesting.
Once everything is locked down securely, we move to step 2, non-destructive dismantling. You can't just toss these devices into a giant industrial shredder. Instead, highly trained technicians manually and systematically decouple the assemblies.
This careful process segregates the ultra-high-value internal components, like your CPUs, RAM modules, and solid-state storage, away from the structural housings and plastics.
Next up, Step 3 tackles the plastics through advanced polymer separation. Secondary plastic components go through intense physical sorting and density differential filtration strategies. This is actually a super fascinating step because it lets engineers perfectly isolate hazardous flame-retardant polymers away from the high-density recyclable plastics, safely managing all those tricky secondary microplastics along the way.
And finally, Step 4, hydrometallurgical extraction. This is where the magic really happens for those precious metals. The circuit assemblies undergo highly targeted chemical leaching and electrowinning. By deploying robust filtration systems and entirely sealed microenvironments, labs can selectively isolate elements like gold and copper while completely neutralizing toxic secondary emissions like lead and mercury. So you get exceptionally high material recovery yields without poisoning the local ecosystem. It's brilliant. Section 4. Corporate Compliance and CSR. So we've talked about the secure destruction and the high-tech material recovery, but how does all of that translate into massive strategic value for the boardroom? Well, when you utilize an audited source reduction, it feeds directly into your corporate sustainability reports, giving you the exact volume of chemicals and elements you've diverted from landfills. Traceable material recovery gives you the verifiable, data-driven insights you need to prove your reductions in Scope 3 greenhouse gas emissions. And secure decommissioning fulfills your ESG mandates, completely insulating your operations from legal non-compliance penalties. This isn't just an old-school scrap-weight certificate. This is exactly how modern enterprises build a resilient, bulletproof digital architecture.
I want to read a quote that I think really hits the nail on the head regarding the ultimate strategic advantage of a closed-loop framework. Organizations transform an administrative cost center into an undeniable testament to corporate environmental stewardship. You literally take something that used to drain your budget, and you turn it into a powerhouse of sustainability and resource generation.
So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with one final, vital question to ask about your own operations. Is your digital operational architecture right now an eco-liability, or is it a bulletproof, self-sustaining reserve? The blueprint is out there, the economics are absolutely undeniable, and the extraction technology is ready to go. What you do next is entirely up to you.